fertility essentials, or at least in my opinion, the essentials that you need when you're trying to conceive. Um, First and foremost, what you definitely need to get is a basal body thermometer. Um, these can easily be found on eBay, Amazon, practically anywhere. You can even get them in any pharmacy. Um, I have several of them. This one came off of eBay. I actually don't recommend that you buy this one from the Baby Wish. I've had a lot of problems out of it, um, and I'm currently actually in the market for a new thermometer. So if anybody has any suggestions for one that one has a backlight, and two has memory that's capable of storing more than one temperature. Sorry, temperature in it. I would be really interested. So if anybody knows of one that is able to do that, and actually has a fairly loud beep on it, and is waterproof or water resistant, please just comment below and let me, or put a link to where I can find it at. The basal body thermometers, when you're tracking your fertility, I feel like the basal body thermometer, or your temperature, is really a really important and vital part of tracking your fertility. No, it's not going to tell you when you should be baby dancing. It's not going to tell you when you're about to ovulate, but it's going to tell you a lot about the health of your overall cycle, and it's going to confirm whether or not you are or are not ovulating. And I feel like that's something that every woman needs to know. And without having, I kind of look at everything that I chart with my fertility like a big huge puzzle, and each piece that I plug into my chart on the app that I use, Fertility Friend, is like one piece of the puzzle. And if I were just looking at one of those pieces, then I wouldn't really be, knowing a whole lot about what's going on in my cycle. But when I put all of them together, it creates the whole picture, and I'm able to see everything that's going on and make sure that everything is matching up each cycle. Because if you don't know this already, your body can actually kind of, your secondary fertility signs, which are like your cervical position, your cervical mucus, even your OPKs and LH strips, you can get all go signs that you're about to ovulate and not actually ovulate. So without doing the basal body temperatures, you could be spending several cycles thinking that you're timing everything perfectly and that you are ovulating, when in fact your body's only gearing up to ovulate and you don't actually ovulate, and you have been essentially wasting all those months, because you weren't ovulating, and if you're not ovulating, there's no way for you to get pregnant. Um, and that's something really simple that, just going to your gynecologist, um, that they can help you fix. So, and even if you didn't want to go to the doctor, there are other natural remedies that can help you fix that as well. So, I really, really feel strongly about the basal body temperature. There's a lot of women who don't do it, and they get along fine, but for me, my personality, my sanity, and peace of mind, the basal body temperatures, I have to have them. They, without them, I don't have the entire picture of everything that's happening each cycle, and they're just absolutely essential to me. And having a good thermometer is, something that if you're going to do the basal body temperatures, then investing in a decent thermometer is a good idea. I unfortunately went the cheap route to begin with because I didn't think that it was that important, and I honestly didn't think that we were still going to be trying to conceive, you know, here in September, almost October. We started trying to conceive in January. So, I'm going to upgrade on the basal body thermometer. The next thing that I think is essential, which I already mentioned, is that you find a app that you really like to chart all of your fertility signs and keep track of all of your symptoms and everything that you're doing for your fertility. A lot of women really like fertilityfriend.com. That's actually the one that I use. I really love everything that Fertility Friend does, but I wish that they would make the user interface a little bit, I guess, more feminine and appealing. It's not as pretty as some of the other apps are, and that's the only complaint that I have about it, honestly. I actually pay for, there's a free version and a paid version. I go ahead and pay for the paid version of it monthly, and they run specials all the time. The last time I got 3 months for $16. It's a lot cheaper if you go ahead and just buy a year, but a lot of times I can't afford to do that. But I like a lot of the features that you get with the paid version of it, so I go ahead and pay for that. There are other fertility apps, Kendara, Glow, I think Ovograph maybe is another one. I'm not really familiar with the other ones because like I said, I used fertilityfriend.com and it works perfectly for me. It lets me customize everything that I need to customize, and it lets me put in all of the information that I need to put in to track my fertility, and it comes up with all these neat little graphs. And if you do the paid version, then you can compare your charts to other women's charts, and it gives you a percentage of how likely it is that you're pregnant each cycle. And there's just a lot of really neat things and a lot of really, really good information, even on the free version, on fertilityfriend.com about tracking your fertility. The next thing that is absolutely essential that you have ovulation strips, or LH strips, which the ones that I personally recommend, and I have tried a lot of them because I've tried to go the cheap route with everything, and um, I kind of have a scientific, analytical mind, so I've used a lot of the ovulation strips at the same time, like dipping, 4 different brands of ovulation strips in the same urine sample to see, if I get the same result across the board. And that is not true with all ovulation strips. So, I do recommend that you get the internet cheapies. The brand that I personally use, and the ones that have always caught my surge and I've had no confusion with, are Wanfo ovulation strips. They come in the blue and white pack. Don't confuse these with the ones that look slightly different, but they're a pregnancy test, and they tout them as 10 MIU pregnancy test. Make sure that you're getting the LH ovulation strip with Wanfo for these. And I use these in conjunction with my OPK monitors, which is the next thing on my list that I think is essential, is that you get a good, especially if you are having a hard time with your cycle, like somebody like me who doesn't have regular cycles, things are not the same every month for me. I really recommend that you invest in a decent OPK monitor or fertility monitor, in which Clear Blue has some OPK monitors that are cheaper, that are similar to the fertility monitors that I have, which I have both models that Clear Blue came out with. I have the older one that they have, and I have the newer touchscreen one that they have. So far, I have been dual testing with both of these, which I tell you is very expensive. And I actually prefer the older one to the newer one. I feel like they left a lot of things out when it came to what you should be able to track in this monitor. And this monitor, from the very get-go, has always caught my ovulation, because I do my basal body temperatures, so I can confirm that when this says that I have a peak, that I actually did ovulate after that. This monitor has not. So, I'm using it again this cycle to see what happens, but if I were to recommend one of them, I would recommend that you go with the cheaper one. These ones are a lot cheaper. You can find them on eBay for really great deals. A lot of times you can find them in lots that come with, a bunch of the fertility sticks that come with them. So, if you want a fertility monitor, and you're wanting something that's a little bit more than just the smiley face, Clear Blue, like their smaller OPK test, then this is the one that I would recommend that you get. Now, I actually am going to purchase some of the Clear Blue smiley face ovulation test, the ones that give you a empty circle, a blinking smiley face, and then a solid smiley face indicating low, high, and peak fertility. And the reason that I'm actually considering switching to those is because these monitors only allow you to test one time per day. And in the paperwork, the user manual, it tells you that you should use your first morning urine when you test with these. Now, not my very last cycle, but the last cycle previous to that, I tested with both of these monitors. This monitor I use strictly first morning urine with, and this monitor I used my second morning urine with. This monitor caught my surge. This monitor did not. So for me, even when it comes to the estrogen detection, I use my second morning urine with these monitors. That's a personal choice. You know, I know that in the user manual it says to use first morning urine, and if you want to use your first morning urine, you know, that's completely up to you. But I know for me, using my second morning urine is what has caught my surges and allowed me to catch my ovulation. And if I had been relying on this monitor when I was only using FMU with this, I would have completely missed my ovulation. So that's just something to think about whenever you're using these monitors. In which the reason why I also buy these ovulation strips is because these monitors only allow you to test one time per day, which means that if you sometimes have a very short LH surge in the afternoon, let's say that I test with this monitor and it gives me a high, but then a few hours later is when my LH surge actually happens. By the next morning, when I test with my SMU, my second morning urine, it may be too late, and this monitor may actually read as a high again instead of a peak, which would make me think that I haven't ovulated yet. So, which that hasn't personally happened to me yet, but what I do is whenever these monitors start giving me high readings, I start testing with the WANFOs. I do SMU with this, and then 2 more times per day I test with one of these. Actually, when I first start getting highs, I use these once per day, and then once I start seeing a little bit of progression on the WANFOs, that's when I start testing 2 or 3 times per day. And always, whenever I get a positive on these, this will pick up the surge. I cannot say the same for the more expensive touchscreen one. But since we're going to go one more cycle with this one to see what happens, we'll see if it picks it up this month. Now, so basal body thermometer, a charting app, LH strips, and some type of OPK monitor. those are all the things that are going to get you up until when you need to start baby dancing. And the essentials that I feel that you need when you are baby dancing are a little bit different than what this stuff is. Those things, in which I just want to put a disclaimer in here, I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. These are things that I actually personally use every cycle. I'm not getting paid to recommend any of these products. I wish I was. It would be really nice to be sponsored by them, but that is not the truth. These are products that I personally use when we are trying to conceive, and have been using them, for months and months. And these are things that I have stuck with. There are things that I have tried that I have, just stopped using, and the stuff that I put on the essentials list are the things that I have stayed with. Now, one of those things, when you start baby dancing, a lot of people do not realize that if you're using just your regular lube, from the store, pharmacy, whatever, you are actually decreasing your chances of conception. Regular lube is not sperm friendly at all, even if it does not have spermicide in it. It does not create an environment that is conducive for you to be able to conceive. And they actually create specific lubricants that are made to help balance the pH level of the environment in there and make it a little bit easier for the sperm to get where they need to go so that they can fertilize your egg whenever it gets there. One of those products is Pre-Seed. There's another company that makes a sperm-friendly lubricant. It's a little bit cheaper. You get a little bit bigger of a bottle. I personally do not have that product because this product was on clearance at my Target. So I didn't pay as much for it as what you see on Amazon and eBay and stuff like that. But basically, it just comes in a tube. Let's see. It comes in a 1.4 ounce tube like this. I will actually link. Well, you know what? I'll have to get permission from them. But there's a really interesting video that I found on YouTube about somebody that did a test with the microscope with Pre-Seed and sperm. And the next product that I'm about to tell you about, that I think that you should look at because it's actually really, really cool. But the Pre-Seed, the only thing that I found with the Pre-Seed is that the recommended amounts that they tell you to use each time that you're using it, for me personally, are way too much. Each of these little applicators that come with this, if you can see this, it goes from 1 gram, 2 grams, 3 grams, 4 grams. And what you would do is unscrew the cap, then screw this on, and then you would squeeze your tube. And as you're squeezing the tube, this is going to start to come out, and it's going to tell you when you get to this mark, you are at the 1 gram mark, 2 grams, 3 grams, so on. Now, I don't know anybody that uses 4 grams. Maybe there are people out there that use it, but I actually find that 1 gram is still too much. And that could possibly be because I'm using evening primrose oil to increase with my egg white cervical mucus, and that I already, in general, have pretty decent egg white cervical mucus. So when I use the pre-seed, I normally use about a half of a gram, and I know there's a lot of women that just use their finger to put it in there, but um, I would rather make sure that the lubricant, since it's helping with the pH level and the environment, so that the sperm can get to where they need to go, that this lubricant actually gets placed where the sperm are going to be deposited, which is right up next to my cervix. So I do use these applicators. Um, and it has instructions inside of it. It comes with a bunch of the applicators. You insert this in. You have to be a little bit careful when you're doing that because it is really easy for these. They're not very stable at all. Um, so kind of make sure that when after you have filled it up, that you're making sure that you hold it so that it doesn't fall back or come back out this way. That's the only problem I've had is that I've lost some of the lubricant a couple times because of it falling out of the applicator after I have put it in, but before I've been able to insert it. But you put the lubricant in, insert it, then you push the tip in until it's in there, and then you remove it. It says that it's best to wait to do that 10 to 15 minutes before you actually baby dance, so that the lubricant has time to change the pH level of the inside of your vagina and your cervical mucus. And I would suggest that you do give it that time, because sometimes the pH level in there can be very acidic, which is a very hostile environment for sperm. Now, this is for use before you baby dance. After you have baby danced and he has finished, one, it's best that you actually either finish together or you let him finish and then you finish. It actually is not good for you to have an orgasm previous to him having an orgasm, because it starts to change the pH level of the inside of your cervical mucus, and it starts to make it acidic. And if you finish together, those contractions that you feel, there's actually a biological purpose for that, and that is to suck the sperm into your cervix so that they can get into your uterus and up to the egg. So, I've heard of women, letting their husband finish and then, rolling over, propping themselves up, and finishing several times, just to kind of give it that extra boost. I don't do that personally. We just go ahead and finish together. After we're done, I flip over. Immediately afterwards, I use a product in which I threw out the box the other day, but it's actually called Instead Soft Cups, and they come in little packets like this, and What they basically look like is a little pink ring with a little bag inside, and I know that this looks very big and intimidating, but they're really not hard to use, and you're not going to feel it at all. As soon as he's done, roll over. What you're going to do, and you might want to practice inserting these a couple times before you actually use it to aid with conception. Um, but to insert it, this pink ring is actually very, very flexible. So, I mean, see, you can actually get it to go all the way down like this. So, what you're going to do is, now, there is a wrong way and a right way to insert this. If I can show you here, if you can see, there's a little lip around the edge of this. Now, if I flip this to the other side, you can see that the bag is kind of bunched up along the top instead of being nice and smooth like it is here. You want the bag to be smooth and the rim to be along the outside. Now, there actually is a little bit of a texture to the bag. You probably can't see that, especially with the quality of my camera, but that texture should be on the outside of the bag as well. So make sure that you have it in the correct position. Then you're going to squeeze it together to where it kind of makes a figure 8, and kind of scoop whatever has started to leak out. And since you've been practicing, you're just going to insert that right up on in there. You're going to push inside and back towards your spine. And it's going to pop open. And basically what that's going to do is going to catch all of those little swimmers, keep them in this little bag, and keep them right there next to your cervix, right where they need to be, so that when you stand up, one, a huge mess isn't leaking everywhere, because, you know, nobody likes that anyways. And two, you can keep these in, you can actually keep them in for up to 12 hours, but people who use them for cervical capping purposes use them for 6 hours. After 6 hours, remove it, discard of the soft cup, and you're done with. Some people do reuse them. I don't see any reason why they couldn't be sanitized with alcohol and reused, but they're really not that expensive at Walmart. They're like $6 for a box of them. So I just go ahead and just use them for one-time uses. Now, these, if you actually look up cervical capping, it's what they used to do before they introduced IUI and IVF. And cervical capping actually has better conception rates than IUI does. So that's just kind of a little tidbit of information that you may want to look up on your own. If cervical capping is something that you're really interested in, there's a company called storkotc.com that has a product that is made specifically for actually cervical capping, and I do not believe that you need a prescription for it, and they have really good success rates. They're just a lot more expensive than these Instead cups are, so I go with these. The next thing on my list of essentials, at least for me, is some way to organize all of my LH strips, OPKs, and then eventually the pregnancy test that I'm inevitably going to start taking at probably like 60 PO. Because when you're obsessed with having a baby, you get crazy in the 2-week wait and get bored, and you simply just have to take pregnancy tests just to pass the time, even though you know that it's going to be negative. It's ridiculous. It absolutely is ridiculous that some of us start testing as early as we do. But you know what? We're not hurting anybody. It makes us feel better. It passes the time. So, who cares? What I use to each cycle that I start, I have this nifty little book like this. That is actually intended for you to put business cards in, but I found another use for it. Each of the little slots it holds 3 business cards, one on each side, are the perfect size for pregnancy test. So these are actually pregnancy tests that I need to get rid of. These are all negative ones from my last cycle. So I will discard of everything that's in this book, because every time a cycle ends in a big fat negative, I just go ahead and get rid of everything and start fresh and clean. But now that we have started a new cycle, I have 2 cycle day 6 and cycle day 7 of my OPKs from the advanced monitor, and I will continue to put them in order inside the book. So the book will go from OPKs from low to high to peak, and then it will keep all of my pregnancy tests in it that I take, and hopefully at the end of the book I will have a complete cycle of everything that happened that cycle, with my hormones all the way up to ovulation, and then my beautiful progression of 2 pink, beautiful, big, fat, positive lines. So that is why I keep these for records, because I would just like to have them when and if the cycle ends in a positive. So I keep them. If it ends in a big fat negative, they all get thrown away, and I start each cycle fresh. But I still need to clean out my book. Now, if you're taking supplements like I am, I recommend that you get something like this, because I am taking a lot of supplements, and especially for your spouse if they are taking supplements, which he's not taking as much. So his vitamin C dose goes, I'm going to use this even though it's, let's see, the 7 days of the week. I'm going to use it as an AM PM thing. And I'm just going to mark on there with a Sharpie AM PM. And his AM PM doses will go into it. Other thing that I recommend you getting, and not everybody agrees with me on this, but I don't buy disposable cups to pee in every day. I have one glass cup that I sanitize every single time that I dump it out, that is designated as my pee cup, and it has a screw-on cap so that it cannot accidentally be knocked over or spilled because I have a toddler. And it works perfectly for me. And since it is glass, it doesn't hold on to smell because plastic does. And, that's what works for me. I have a small glass container that sits, on the stand behind my toilet that I use to collect my urine in, and it works perfect. And I don't have to buy anything, and I'm not wasting any disposable cups or, just, one purchase, and it does its job. I love it. Let's see. The other essentials, since I think that you should track your secondary fertility signs, which is mainly your cervical mucus and your cervical position, I recommend that you go to a website called, I believe it's beautifulcervixproject.com or My Beautiful Cervix, something like that. I'll put the link below in the description to this video. But they have a kit that you can purchase, and they actually do a sliding scale if you email them, and they will let you purchase it at a discounted rate if you can't afford what it is originally. And if you don't need all of the extra items, they will let you just purchase the speculum. But if you have never checked your cervix, I really recommend that you go to that website, and that you order the kit, and that you get to know, your cervix and all of that. And I'm going to warn you that the pictures on this website are medical. They're, they're graphic. Don't look at them with your kids around. It's not like it's porn or anything like that. They're medical photographs. You can't tell what you're looking at, but you're looking at the inside of someone's body. And, but that website is a really great place to start when it comes to learning how to check your cervical position and the different types of cervical mucus and what they mean, according to where you are in your cycle, which I will do a separate video on secondary fertility signs. The other two things that I think are essential are that you find something to relax and de-stress. Those two things for me are doing fertility yoga, which I absolutely adore, and working on my pregnancy, trying to conceive vision board. If you don't know what a vision board is, type in on YouTube how to create a vision board, and all kinds of videos will pop up. But I think that it's a really great tool to use. One of the things that I have done is taken one of my negative first response um, pregnancy test and actually popped it open and took a pink marker and made it a positive pregnancy test, and then wrote on it with the Sharpie, "Congratulations on your big fat positive." And I keep that pregnancy test on my desk so that I can see it all the time, so that I can visualize in my mind and try to feel those emotions of what it's going to feel like when that actually happens for me. And I feel like those things are really important to do. At least for me, they are. It helps me stay positive, and it helps me stay focused on my goal and not the past or what's going on right now. And when I start to get really stressed and down about everything, it's really helpful to, look at that vision board and see, where I'm going and why I'm doing all of this. Reminding myself of why I'm doing all of this really helps me to get out of that, this is so hard and I'm so stressed and it's exhausting and frustrating. It helps me to get out of that mentality and get back into, okay, put my game face on, and we're going to do this, and it's going to happen for us, and it's just a matter of time. And, my vision board really helps me to stay focused, and I really, really love it. The fertility yoga is another one that I really, really love. The last thing that is absolutely essential for anyone trying to conceive is, of course, pregnancy test. Now, you are going to need to buy tons of just internet cheapies, so that you can pee on a stick as much as you want during that second 2-week wait to your little heart's content and not feel bad about it one bit because they are so cheap. Then, one of the cheaper pregnancy tests that I do recommend are from a company called SurePredict, and they come with this really cool little cardboard, almost like coaster thing that has, if you can see on here, it actually tells you where to place the strip and where exactly your control line and test line will come up, which I really love, because with the strips, sometimes it's hard to know where that test line's supposed to come up. So when you put your strip on here, which this is one of my old negative pregnancy tests, when you put the strip on there, you line it up with where the control line should be and everything else, and then you know exactly where you should be looking for a test line. And I just think that is the coolest thing ever, that they decided to include that in with their pregnancy test. And I really recommend these pregnancy tests. They say that they're 10 MIU, and they really are. There are a lot of companies out there that say that they are, but they are actually not. SurePredict is one of the companies that actually are that sensitive, and they are a really great test. Love them. I buy them every single month to make sure that I have enough on stock. Now, I I start using the Sure Predicts about 7-8 DPO. If I have to test before then, and if I'm testing several times a day, then I'm going to use my ones that I didn't spend a whole lot of money on, because the Sure Predicts are not as cheap as the other ones. And then when you do start to see a Lyme, that's when you want to get out these bad boys. And everybody knows about the first response, and of course these are the flat ones, not the curved ones. Do not recommend that you buy the curved ones. Look for the flat ones. And if you are one of those really lucky ladies who gets a line on one of these, then to confirm it, you're going to want to get one of these bad boys. And a lot of women really like the clear blue advanced digital pregnancy test with the weeks estimator, which I think is really cool too, and I can't wait until I'm able to use one of these. But I got a really great deal on these, which is the First Response Gold Digital, and it simply just says yes or no. But I have these, so, of course, if I get a line on one of those First Response, of course I'm going to use one of these, and then I'm going to use one of these. I'm probably going to use all of them that are in these boxes, and probably the rest of the boxes that I had, just because I'm not going to believe it because it's taken so long. But, sorry for this video going so long again, but, those are the essentials that every woman has to have, other than, taking your prenatal. And if you're having issues with cervical mucus, then I definitely recommend doing the evening primrose oil. But I have a whole nother video on supplements if you're wanting to add supplements into your regimen. This video has already ran way too long. I didn't intend for it to get this long, so I'm going to end this video. And please remember to like and subscribe down below. It really helps me out a lot, and it only takes a few seconds. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll be happy to answer anything and everything anybody, needs to know, or, has a question about, or, and I love to hear people's feedback and comments, or if you have any advice for me, because, this is a journey for me too. I don't know it all. I'm not an expert, and these are just the things that I've learned along the way, of this time trying to conceive and the last time that we were trying to conceive. So, I'm not an expert, but I have a lot of experience in this area. And thank you again for watching, and please don't forget, like and subscribe down below. And my next video will be about things that help me when I'm stressed or bored, and the 2-week wait in either one of them. So, I hope that you guys are looking forward to seeing that video. It's been great, and I will see you guys next time.